Hey, it's John Santucci from the USA Today Network here, of course, with the genius that is Chris Boyle. I say that every week, and now that it's signing day, it's more true. How much sleep, by the way, did you get last night?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. I got a couple more. I'm not going to lie. All right, we have one of the most stacked shows I think that we've ever had, so we're going to get right to it. This guy has had a busy day. He's probably as tired as we are, and he had a really big curveball thrown at him midday. Kurt Weiler, covering the Seminoles. How we doing, my friend?
I am doing better than I would probably say the Florida State football program. I mean, the thing is, like, we'll talk about it. It's not a bad class. It'll probably end up being the best class of the big three. But there is one big downer on what should be a better day for the Florida State football program.
Yeah. Now, the bizarre thing was, by the way, and for anybody who's living under a rock and yet watching this show, Travis Hunter, obviously the news of ever for recruiting, right? Had he not been committed, had he just picked it, I don't think this would have been a big deal. As big a deal.
Had he not been the number one player in the nation, too,
I mean, for Florida State.
Oh, sure. No, yeah. I mean, it would still be a big deal if Florida State was in on a kid, if Georgia was in on a kid, if Alabama was in on a kid, if all those programs they were. And Georgia was also trying to flip them to the very end and couldn't.
Right.
But it would still be a big deal, but it wouldn't be as big a deal. I mean, you're talking about a kid who has been committed for almost 2 years, who never was rattled in the least by the results of the program, the trajectory of the program. I don't think that's what this was about. I think pretty clear by going to Jackson State, that's not what this was about. This wasn't about non-belief in Mike Norvell, not right. Thinking that he could have success here. But yeah, the fact that you thought it was, and everybody thought, no one had any inkling of this entering the day, except for, I guess, Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter, makes it a much bigger deal.
Yeah, it turns out that the letters NIL mean more than FSU to him. But let's get to that. Walk us through kind of your day. When did you start to hear that this was a possibility?
Yeah, there was a moment probably in like the 9 or 10 a.m. somewhere in that.
Oh, okay.
In that, yeah. I mean, it was there were rumblings early on because I think the thing is, if you're Florida State's first letter they got the day was Sam McCall, the 5-star defensive back out of Lakeland. I'm sure they would have loved the first letter to be Travis Hunter. You know, I mean, that's the number one. I mean, it would have been. I think it would have been only the second time they've ever signed the number one player in the nation, and so yeah, I'm sure they would have loved for that to be a trendsetter. And I don't think there was an immediate panic. But there were rumblings, and then I mean it got all the way up to a guy like Steve Wiltfong reporting about it on 247's live show, and I mean it very quickly snowballed into a legitimate thing that had the coaching staff more than a little scared when they really hadn't been remotely scared, and for good reason because there had been no inkling that he was really considering anything.
As best as you can be, you are the world's most fortunate fly that you have found a way to get a crack into the coach's room in Tallahassee during all of this. What are you hearing and what are you saying? Like what's being said in the room and what's the mood inside of it?
I have to imagine I'm hearing words that you probably don't want me to say on the stream. If I had
I to want bet, you I mean, to. I'm all for it.
You think there were a couple of those?
I don't. There could be children in the room of someone watching. I won't do that. But I mean, it was. Yeah, I think it was. I would have to imagine either cursing or fervent text message. You hear the clicking of fingers of just because I don't think it was a done deal immediately. Because I mean, from when the rumblings happened to when he actually announced it was probably a span of 2 or 3 hours where Florida State was still in communication with him. It wasn't immediately him telling them this is over. It was the rumbling started and grew from there. So yeah, I mean, disbelief in the long run, I think, is the biggest thing. It was a weird situation, obviously, because Mike Norvell had his press conference at 4 p.m. today, and he's not allowed to talk about that because NCAA rules, you're not allowed to talk about anybody who didn't sign with you. So he got asked a few questions about like NIL and about stuff like that and kind of people trying to beat around the bush, but he's not allowed to mention it directly. It's kind of a weird area for him to have to walk around, and it's something that I'm sure he can't imagine he was remotely a consideration today.
I want to ask you a quick follow-up, and it's not exactly a follow-up, but it's just something kind of spurred to my mind. Deion Sanders is an icon in Tallahassee. He's one of the greatest players to ever play at Florida State. What's the mood around, like, what's the attitude that fans are showing towards him today after you know, this monumental move?
Do you see the video we had on our website of the one fan who burned his signed jersey?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
Yes, that happened. I mean, there's some stuff like that.
Is this like an act of treason in Tallahassee?
I mean, a lot of people want his number unretired. It is. I mean, there are rational Florida State fans who are like, I really can't hold this against Deion Sanders or Travis Hunter, and I really don't think you can hold it against Mike Norvell because I don't see what he could have done different.
No, I agree.
But that the fans didn't want to hear that. Fans needed source of anger, so they directed a lot of that at Deion. They directed a lot of that at Travis Hunter, and they're going to direct a lot of that for a while at Mike Norvell.
Okay, let's switch to anything else for just 1 second. Which
why would we want to though?
It's not that I want to. It's just
like the biggest story of the decade in recruiting. Like,
I think it's longer than that.
Probably of all time.
It's one of them, sure.
Absolutely, the biggest recruiting story that I can ever remember. But talk about who they got. Who are you most surprised by?
They felt really good about Tyree West, the defensive lineman out of Tifton, Georgia, who he was a Georgia commit, but it was largely coming down between FSU and Tennessee. They felt real good about him, and Tennessee made a late charge and pulled him away. That was before really there were any inklings about Travis Hunter, but that was the first sign of, this may not be as great a close as we thought. And I mean, like we said, even without that, there were some great pieces in Florida State's class where it's going to end up probably a top 20 class. There's some pieces they could still add. I'm not going to say I was surprised by Marvin Jones Jr. making the decision he did. I mean, when you look at them being in really the final three, it seemed like with two teams that are in this year's college football playoff for a kid like that, it's not going to be surprising when he goes to one of those places. A couple other ones. I mean, Julian Armella moving his decision back to February was a surprise. I do think Florida State's still in that, but Florida State already used their official visit and can't have him on campus in an official capacity again. So that's a problem considering other programs can. So there are some other ones, but Tyree West was one, and that definitely I would say. And I should mention Devon Mortimer decommitting and flipping to Louisville. That it's been in the works for a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe even, but he for a long time had been solid to FSU, very solid, and it's a big miss, a big loss at a big position of need for Florida State.
He's a phenomenal player. Did you see Dante Anderson committing, or was that a surprise?
That was to me. I mean, we're still. He wasn't listed on their signee sheet of like scholarship guys. I'm thinking he's going to be a preferred walk-on. It's a nice piece, especially as a preferred walk-on, but it seems like one that they weren't even kind of willing to bring in until it seemed like they thought they weren't getting guys like Marvin Jones Jr. and Tyree West, guys of that ilk. So it's a nice piece, no doubt. It is one of a few positives in a day that was largely not positive for FSU for sure.
Sure.
We're about 6 weeks-ish away from doing this all over again. Isn't that going to be wonderful? There'll be a nice Christmas break.
As long as I get a nap.
Florida State fans can kiss their families and, and enjoy the holiday season. But then eventually this does kick in again. What sort of mission does Florida State have over the next 6 weeks before we get to February? What are the goals they have to accomplish, and what players do you think are at the top of the board?
What they have to accomplish is filling the needs the big needs they have that didn't really get addressed with this group. I mean, you look at wide receiver. That was a big problem for them this past year. They had Devon Mortimer lined up, and like I said, lost him to Louisville. Kevin Coleman, their battle in Miami, and that's one they're unfortunately not going to know for a while because it seems like I know he's announcing at the I think the All-American Bowl. Right. Even though he's signing this week. And I think the expectation is he might just show up on someone's campus. And Florida State will find out in January if they're getting him or if they're getting Kevin Coleman. If they miss on both those guys, I mean, they don't have a single high school receiver, and we'll see who they could get in on late. It's gonna be transfer portal heavy again. It was last year. We saw that with guys like Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas, who they brought in. And there will be a need there on defensive line. There will be a big need at receiver, maybe linebacker. I mean, Omar Graham is a guy they're really high on. He had a great senior season at Stranahan down in Fort Lauderdale, but they need more. They would need more at the position than the one signee they have right now. So it'll be a lot of portal, and it'll be a lot of it's interesting. I mean, it seems like there are a few more guys than the last few years pushing those decisions to February. It'll be interesting to see how that changes things for them if they're able to get in on any guys. But, I mean, it'll be transfer portal heavy for sure.
Gotcha. Kurt, I know you got another basketball game to go to tonight, which for whatever reason is starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we appreciate you, man.
No, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Great job today.
Thank you.
All right, that's a guy I thought I was busy, and then I saw the news, and I'm like, that guy's just going to be in for it.
Who are they playing? Like,
do
you know? Oh,
I do this. I do recruiting. I don't know who Florida State's playing in basketball tonight. All right,
they had a game though. I'm impressed with that. Well done.
We're hoping to have Devin Moore on tonight from Naples. We still hope we can get him later on, but we're going to go to a guy who is at least in the room with Devin Moore, all the way from Naples Daily News. Alex Martin. Alex, how we doing?
Doing great, and they are playing Lipscomb tonight at 9:00, an ASUN foe. So.
Are you sure you say that right? Because I never know is that the right way to say that school?
Lipscomb? Yeah.
Lipscomb. They're out of Nashville, Tennessee, and they are the Bisons with an S.
Yes.
Not to be confused with Howard Bison, which is singular. All right. So talk to us about Devin Moore. He he signs with Florida. Commits is not a thing anymore today. Talk about what went into that decision as far as what you know and what you heard.
On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of a surprise level, I was at like a 2. You could kind of see this one developing over the course of 2-3 weeks since the Brian Kelly news broke in late November. It was one of those situations where, Devin was locked in, to the Irish. Obviously Brian Kelly leaves for LSU, decommits, and then that's when Florida started making the push. And things got real kind of interesting because that night, Jules Montenar, who was on staff at Florida, was a Naples Golden Eagle, and Billy Napier chooses not to retain him on staff. So that kind of gave the Irish some hope that they could possibly retain him. But, Patrick Toney did a great job at closing the door on Notre Dame and, keeping Moore in state. Talking to him earlier today, he was really satisfied with the prospect of playing only 4 hours away from home. Maybe he had some second thoughts about playing, in the Midwest and kind of away from his family. But nonetheless, they get a huge, they started the day well and they closed the day well.
Yeah, that's for
Did you talk to him about the end of his speech by chance, where he went with was it death, taxes, and scared money don't make money?
Yeah, that
soundbite.
In the moment, that was just one of the all-time sound bites, you'll remember. And, it just goes to show you that Billy Napier's brand is selling early on. And, just hearing that slogan, that mantra, coming out of Devin Moore's mouth, it really showed how big of an impact, Billy Napier had this past weekend up in Gainesville. Took the official visit, apparently went really well, and he told me that was pretty much just the confirmation. At that point, he was leaning towards Florida. Once the official visit was done, at that point, it was a done deal.
Yeah, that's becoming Florida's version of row the boat, but it has caught on so quickly. And it's impressive, and it says a lot for Napier and what he's done. Alex, you obviously, though, you cover more than just Naples. You're really tied in with all of Southwest Florida, and you work closely with Chris and I on state stuff. So talk about Chris Graves. He does stick with Miami. I know they were worried about that, the past couple weeks. So what do you know about that situation and his decision to stay with the Canes?
He was very close at the time, at the time of signing today. He was thinking about pushing it back to February and buying another 2 months.
Wow.
It was one of those situations where Penn State and Michigan State were making a late charge. Penn State obviously making the late charge because of Manny Diaz. Michigan State kind of just sliding in. They were never really in the picture at all during Graves' recruitment. It was South Carolina, LSU, Florida, and Miami. Those were the 4. And, 3 out of the 4 schools get new coaches. So it kind of created a little bit of drama there for Graves. But, taking the official visit to Miami this past weekend, getting put up in the Ritz-Carlton on Key Biscayne must have been nice.
Yeah, I don't think that hurts.
But, Miami knows how to do it for sure when it comes to, official visits and, treating the guys the right way. But, Graves is, he has a teammate there, Malik Curtis, Bishop Verot grad. So, he kind of had a little bit of connections there. And, he liked, Mario Cristobal's vision for the program specifically. With new facilities, new blood, keeping kids in South Florida, which is something that, Manny Diaz struggled doing, especially with guys like Pat Surtain, Jerry Jeudy. I can go on and on.
Yes, you can make a very long list. I'm a Miami guy. Don't get me started. Come on, it's too early in the show.
Give us kind of the layout of Southwest Florida from here on out. Like what's still there, who's still going to be the top targets in February, and kids that still have a chance to get to either a Power 5 or at least an FBS level.
I think the top guy on the board right now has got to be Greg Delane, who's currently committed to Georgia Tech. But I mean, at that point, I'd call it a commitment in name only. It's just one of those that it's there. But with Jeff Popovich, the special teams coordinator, now gone and off the staff, the guy who is heavily recruiting Greg Delane, I've heard that Georgia Tech doesn't know what they want to do with him. So at that point, I think Greg's going to have to find another school. Iowa State's a potential suitor. He might have some of those mid Power 5s kind of trying to slide in and pick up one. But also Nathan Castor's another one who's waiting until February with the transfer portal, waiting to see where guys end up. He's got a couple looks. Wake Forest, Army, Louisville, I believe, is another one. So he's got options as well. You got some other guys. You got a guy like Avian Rice from Dunbar High, who is he's got Western Kentucky. He's also got Louisville. He's got a couple others. Miami seems to have fallen out of the picture with him. But a very talented safety, I'd say he's more of a striker or a hybrid safety, kind of going back and forth. He's a guy who is also waiting until then. And, he's one of the guys that I'm actually really interested in kind of following and seeing where he goes.
All right, look, we just did this. We did a little roundtable. It'll be up online in a little bit, but let's kind of give a teaser. I just want to ask you guys, because we all pay close attention to the whole state. Alex, we're going to start with you. Outside of the name Travis Hunter, give me the biggest story of the day for you.
I think it's got to be Kamari Wilson going to Florida. I think that was a huge win for Billy Napier and company. Just getting another DB. Obviously getting Devin Moore to flip would have been good enough given the circumstances for the Gators and whatnot. But just being able to double down, you get a 4-star in the morning, you get a 5-star, to close out the evening.
Sure.
Especially in that secondary, with you got Alabama or you got Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC in a few years. You need 5 stars at Florida to be able to compete on defense with some of those, with the Georgias and the Alabamas for sure.
Chris, what about you, man? Biggest story of the day?
I think it's kind of like a little bit of a grudge match between Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M with the three top classes. By any metric,
we need to do triple threat cage match with those 3 teams on recruiting.
Yeah, all of these teams have just superstars out of the state of Florida. Between, Gabe Dindy at A&M, Marvin Jones picking Georgia here today, Alabama, doing what they normally do and sweeping through with ruthless abandon and taking what they want when they want. It's those 3 teams have really run away with it, and it shouldn't come as any surprise with the SEC. And they're one of the 3 they're like one of the few programs in the SEC, 3 of them that offered stability that didn't have a coaching change. They didn't have any risk of a coaching change. So they've all done really well this year, and it's just a battle for 5 stars for each of them. They're just taking what they want when they want it right now.
I wonder though today, having said that, if we saw a little bit of a changing of the guard today, and I always say that because Alabama last year destroyed everybody in the state of Florida. They signed 7 of the top 20 guys. And I put this in one of the stories we wrote, because at this point I've written so many on recruiting on the last couple of days, I don't remember which one. Miami, Georgia, and I think Florida combined to sign 6. So, but this year, we saw Georgia. Georgia did incredibly well in the state. Texas A&M, obviously, they only signed the number 1 player. But if they hold and it looks like they're the leader for Shamar Stewart, all of a sudden, you signed 2 of the top 3 guys in Florida. I think we're definitely going with a quality over quantity look. So I definitely think that we could see a little bit of that shifting. And obviously Clemson looked like it was going to have a huge day, and that didn't happen at all. So, Alex, we appreciate you, man. You jumped in at the last second. We really do appreciate you. You're doing a great job today, and thanks for getting up so early.
Awesome. Yeah, it was had Hadn't been up that early since high school, so.
You gotta love signings before sunrise, right? Get used to it every
Exactly.
December and February from here on out.
Alex, thanks, man.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Really excited to have this guy on. I'm pretty sure I covered him in high school, but I can't remember. We're going to have to ask him. But from Indiana, special teams coordinator, outside linebackers coach. I don't know if he wants any other position groups thrown in there. Casey Teagarden. Coach, how we doing?
Good. How are you, John?
Good. Now, did I cover you in high school, or was I right after you left?
No, you were there.
Oh, great. I'm really old.
I wasn't a good player. I was a water boy for other guys. So
well, it looks like it worked out for you, Coach. Let's start with this, man. Outstanding class. You and I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit in the past, but outstanding class. You just got Nick James in the last couple hours. How excited are you about the players that you got from the state of Florida?
We couldn't be more excited, and it worked out great, like you said. Getting James at the last minute, and James came up towards the end of the season for a game, for a home game, and did a whole weekend visit with us. And I think our D-line coach, Kevin Peoples, did an unbelievable job just with the parents and really diving into them and understanding what he was really looking for. I think he knows he's got a huge opportunity up here to come in and play pretty significant minutes early. And I think, there's a lot of guys from the state of Florida that's what they're looking for. I think that's one of the things that attracts people to Indiana is we've had a success rate of guys coming from Florida being All-Americans, Tywan Mullen and, Michael Penix, who obviously just left us, but other guys that have come in, Micah McFadden's a two-time All-American from Tampa, Florida that we had, and just guys that came in early and made a name for themselves. And I think that was one of the alluring things for Nick, for sure.
I want to go a little off the board because I think, obviously the one story that just blown everything out of the water was the Travis Hunter thing and how surprising it was. When it comes down to it, when guys have the hats on desks and tables and during a ceremony, do you guys, for the most part, and I know it'll probably be case by case, but for the most part, do you already know what's going to happen, or is there really tension and drama inside the room with some of these guys?
Ooh, good question.
I've been in both scenarios. To be honest with you, we've known, at times because you send the paperwork to them and there's times where guys sign and they say, hey, don't, if you don't mind, don't release it until I do my ceremony. So we've already had some of those papers in hand before to where guys have been like, hey, hold off on releasing. I'm going to pull a hat. And obviously we know it's ours. We've also been on the other side of it where we've been sitting there and wondering, hey, this dude hasn't sent us papers. We sent them to him. He's saying at the last minute, and we've been up to the last half hour before guys go up onto a stage and pull a hat. We've been on that as well. So not knowing exactly what they're going to do, just keep fighting for these guys. It goes both sides. The Travis Hunter deal, I mean, it was the talk of our hallway when it happened, right? I mean, all the coaches came out of their office. Did you see what just happened? And, so I don't know if anybody really saw that other than maybe and his crew knew because they threw him the hat, right? The Texas State. We've all seen the video. So, Coach Norvell, I don't know. I don't know. You start to wonder as the day progresses and you don't get that guy's paperwork. You do. A lot of guys send that thing in 7 a.m. Boom, it's done. Here it is, 7:05, 7:30. And then you get to the central time zone, boom, 8 o'clock, Eastern time zone. You're getting those guys from the central time zone, so on and so forth. And if that day progresses, if you don't start you get a little itchy if you don't get a guy's paperwork in there in the morning. Right. I'm sure Coach Novell was feeling that way.
You guys did a great job in the state of Florida. Like we said, you look at guys like James Mons, Vincent Sneed. I think we're going to ask you later, but Philip Dunham was a guy that I think that was just great recruiting because not a lot of people were in on him early. But what is the biggest challenge for you as one of the primary guys for Indiana and Florida trying to recruit kids from out of state? Because it's not like they can just drop by the school, for an unofficial. So what's the biggest challenge for you trying to get these guys to Indiana?
It's been easier the last couple of years, but to get the thing going, it's been a lot of relationship building. You got to have the relationships with the coaches. It comes down to the high school coaches. The high school coaches got to trust you enough to go to their kid and say, hey, look, I know these guys are going to take care of you. It is worth spending the money on a plane ticket to go up early before they can official you, right? Because all of these kids, they go on these bus tours. No one's driving through Bloomington, Indiana from Florida. It's just, it ain't happening. They're going to Atlanta to Georgia Tech. They're going over to Tuscaloosa.
Right.
They're going to Auburn. They ain't going all the way up to Bloomington, Indiana, you know? So, but you do have to try to get these guys on campus early. We build the relationships. I think with COVID, you know, a big thing for us in this class is obviously the new technology. We Zoomed like you wouldn't believe. I mean, Zoom tours of our facilities, you know, just trying to get these guys and understand like, hey, we know you physically can't be here. Let's make it as attractive as possible. The recruiting department did an unbelievable job with that and showing these guys from Florida, hey, look, this is a stadium. This is what it looks like. Okay, great. You guys like it? Let's hook it up an official visit. Great. We'll pay to bring you up. That was kind of our unofficial visits were all the Zoom stuff that we did. Wow. Because you can't get those guys up here. But the relationship piece is a huge, huge factor for us in that. And trying to build our own fences. You know, I know everybody tries to build their fences around their areas. And obviously, I think the success that we've had, like I said, recently with the guys that have come from Florida have really helped as well.
Sure.
You know, the Vence and Snead commitment seemingly kind of came very quickly. I mean, he decommitted from Tennessee. It looked like Marshall was certainly kind of the leader for a minute there. And then all of a sudden he was in Bloomington last week and he was signed, sealed, delivered today. How did that all come together and what sort of bond did you guys have before this weekend? And was it all kind of a quick turnaround type thing?
We were on him very heavily in the summertime before he committed. And, you know, we knew once he committed to Tennessee, okay, we got to pull back a little bit and you got to try to get a feel for that stuff. So, you know, is he a guy that could possibly flip late? Is he a guy that could lose interest, you know? And so you try to get a feel for each guy's individual personality. We talk to him once a week throughout the season, where other guys that may be committed like James, we talk to James Mons, I mean, 3, 4, 5 times a week, and not just myself, but his position coach, Brandon Shelby, our head coach, Tom Allen, everybody's talking to those kids that are committed constantly. But a guy like Vincent, hey, you just keep Indiana University in the back of his head as the season goes and progresses, just in case something happens. You kind of keep that fish on the hook. And you know, he decommitted from Tennessee. We went in on that week, visited him at school, visited him at home, and then flew back to Indiana. We had visits that weekend. He went to Marshall. He loved it at Marshall. From everything that we heard, you know, knew we were going to have to battle that, went back in there. Hey, look, you know, we're the Big Ten. You got these opportunities. You're a Big Ten defensive lineman. I mean, that's the biggest sell, right? When he goes and likes another school and their facilities and their coaching staff, you got to have something. And, hey, you know, we're a Power 5 team. We're going to play on national TV every week and all those things. And we were lucky and fortunate enough to get him up to campus. And then, you know, his parents loved it. They're from down south. His parents are from Miami, Florida. So I immediately, you know, dropped that on him. Hey, I'm from down south. And we started naming people. Even their parents just so you know, he used to live in Vero. His parents lived in Vero Beach. So, you know, I dropped, Stewart, Palm City, South Fork.
It all ties back to the treasure.
Don't tell Lenny Jankowski that, by the way.
I'm telling you, man. That's exactly what it is. So, you know, and then you get fortunate. And, you know, we were able to stay alive in it and build a relationship over the course of an entire season and through the summer. And, you know, at the end of the day, you win the parents over and usually you can get them. Yeah,
you know, Snead, the thing that impressed me, obviously, he's so physically impressive, right? He's so well built that he's one of those guys that for me, he's a guy I remember the first time I saw him kind of a thing like, oh, wow, he's just built. You know, he's a big guy. I like the way he plays. I want to ask you one last thing before we let you go. Philip Dunham was not a guy who was high on anybody's list to start the year, which, by the way, shame on us, right? We missed on that because his film is outstanding. Tell us how you found the diamond in the rough there.
Well, you know, it was word of mouth. And I'm not going to take credit for it. We have a guy on our staff and our recruiting staff, Kevin Mashak. He's from South Florida as well and has some connections and heard through the grapevine. We popped his tape on. And during our bye week, our safeties coach, Jason Jones, went down to see him. I went down to see Richard Thomas at American Heritage and a couple other, you know, Jacoby Spells, a couple other guys. And he went down and so saw the look of him, loved him. And honestly, I think those guys just did an unbelievable job recruiting him. You know, we all helped. We all pitched in with our own connections and used, again, all the South Florida kids that we've had come up here. We were lucky because when we got him up and got him on board and committed, you guys didn't write a bunch of articles about him and didn't publicize him. Usually when that happens, that's when those big dogs come in and try to poach him, right? So
well, we're glad, I guess, we
were
could help by
fortunate.
sleeping at the wheel. I don't know.
No, shoot, it goes both ways, so, but we were fortunate enough that, I think our guys did an unbelievable job using our resources and connections that we have, and we evaluated them and we loved them, and then we were just holding on for dear life, and we feel like, I feel like you do, John. I think we got a diamond in the rough, so to speak. He's
Absolutely.
he's an even a better person. Like, that's the thing, when you get to know the kid, he's an unbelievable athlete. And I think he's going to develop into an all Big Ten safety. And he'll have an opportunity to play on Sundays, but the young man himself is awesome to be around. He's humble. You would never know. And that's the thing. He's not a brash, outgoing kid. He's not flashy, but dude, that kid can play. So we're excited about him.
Yeah, again, Case Teagarden from Indiana, a great class when you look at guys like Travell Mullen, Richard Thomas, James Mons, Vincent Sneed, Nick James to cap it off. Coach, just I think a banner day for you guys. So congratulations and appreciate you jumping on.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
All right. I am so excited about our next guest. Is he our first ever return
I was thinking
guest?
about this. I don't know. Well, I mean, other than the writers, I don't know if we've had an athlete on multiple times. This,
I mean, you and I think we see each other every week, but that's mostly people.
We see each other about like every 10 minutes, it seems like, especially today. Like, we've called each other, I think, about 30 times today.
That was mostly you, but yeah, I don't want to talk about that anymore. All right, let's see if he's here, because he was saw him pop on earlier. There he is.
There he is.
Xavier Townsend from Berkeley Prep. Now
How you doing?
We are good, man.
Great.
And now we can say UCF signee.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're going to get into how that news broke, by the way, because I got to ask you about that. But Chris is going to fanboy on you for a minute because he went to UCF. So,
jeez, man, harsh. No, we saw that late last week. We saw the decommitment from Iowa State. Excuse me. There was talk about maybe signing in February. When did the ball really get rolling, and how did you know that today, a day of all days, that you wanted to be at UCF and you wanted to sign early?
I mean, I stayed in contact with the coach and stuff, just being respectful and just listening to what they have to say. Came down to the school, recruited at Berkeley, so I popped my head and just was able to talk to them for a little bit. And, just relationship off of that, talking with Malzahn, Coach Wyatt, I was in the summer, visited with them. I was out there, I always loved the coaching staff, so it just felt like a great fit. And, I guess it was just a matter of, don't overthink things, go what you got.
Yeah. All right. Now, I got to ask you this. Did your new head coach, Gus Malzahn, steal your thunder? And here's why I asked that. Most guys, in fact, everybody I think I've seen except for you get to announce it either, at a ceremony, or you post something on Twitter, or somebody helps you announce, or you do a video. All I saw this morning, I'm working along, and all of a sudden I see Gus Malzahn, boom, Xavier Townsend. I'm like, wait a minute, is that? Oh my gosh. And I called Chris. I'm like, are you kidding me? Xavier Townsend signed, didn't let anybody know. Was that the plan? Did you just want to go completely under the radar, or did it just work out that way?
It did just work away. Berkeley, we don't have ceremonies for early decisions. So I'm on February. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't able to put it on Instagram or anything. But I mean, it was cool. Seeing on there, so I had with it.
Breaking news reporter Gus Malzahn, as if we had never. Obviously, you guys played in the state final just last week against Chaminade Madonna, lined up against a future teammate of yours in Jamal Johnson. So I wanted to get maybe a scouting report, and having gone head to head with him now, what you see, and I'm sure you don't want him to chase you around anymore.
It's true, yeah. I know, he's a ball player. I think it was Saturday. The Saturday game, called me and talking about the game. I was like, Coach, you got a baller coming. I was like, he was all over the field, nothing bad to say about him. He was what we expected and more. Hats off him, and he's going to be a great teammate.
No, he's a guy that we liked, and I think we've said this kind of Chris and I all year. We really like what UCF's done in this class, right? With guys like Jamal Johnson, the Henderson twins. I think Cam Moore is going to come in and be an instant locker room impact guy. Quan Lee, I think, is a stud. Adding you, which until a couple.
You better say TJ Bullard, otherwise he's going to be upset. I bet, and
probably body slam me. So obviously, yes, TJ Bullard is the guy who's a phenomenal. I thought he played really well in the state championship game. He tackled. So
yeah.
What's it like to be a part of this class? Because it feels like, I don't know what the rankings are. I'm not overly concerned. Feels like one of the best classes I've ever seen UCF have.
Oh, for sure. I haven't really looked at the rankings either, but just doing my little research, looking into the recruiting class. We got a lot of ballers. On both sides of the ball. With a coach as well. So I think we got a real good chance. This being the first recruiting class for UCF, Coach Malzahn. So I mean, we're ready to step to the plate and make it happen.
Yeah. Hey, other than his breaking news skills, talk about Gus. What did was how big of an impact did he have on you making the decision to sign with UCF, and what are you looking forward to about being coached by him?
Oh, he's a great guy, a genuine guy. I saw him on TV all the time, but never really got to know him. So, being able to sit down and talk to him a few times, talking to him on the visit, going to one of the games, he had the same type of spirit about him, a great spirit, so it was a no-brainer for me to play under him.
Well, man, we couldn't be bigger fans, and now Chris, I'm sure, is going to go out and buy one of your jerseys. So you might want to go ahead and get an NIL deal in as quick as possible.
I am an impartial reporter, sir, and I take exception to this. I've got to go cover UCF in Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl. So if they think I'm going to go up there and just start shouting from the press box, then they got another thing coming.
That's why you go stand on the little patio outside the press box where you can shout your heart's content. But man, I'm telling you, and Xavier, we said this when we had you on earlier in the year. Couldn't be a bigger fan of your game, man. I saw you in the spring, and I think there was one play against Wiregrass where you caught a little 5-yard pass and turned it into 75 yards and made everybody and 2 water boys miss from each team. So just couldn't be more impressed with you. Really excited to see what you do at the next level, and congrats on all your success, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, so Chris, and we apologize about the audio or the video issues we've been having with the last 2 guests. Really not sure what the deal is with that. Hopefully that's just a bad connection.
Just the blessings of live.
It seems like you and I are doing all right. But Chris, before our next guest comes on, just what's this like for you as a UCF grad and a fan to see this kind of a class come in, especially and in context? They struggled so much last year in state. And I don't know if that was intentional or just, is it a chicken or the egg? Did they struggle because they were looking for outside guys, or did they go outside because they couldn't get guys in state? I don't know. But what's this class like for you?
I mean, the one thing about it, I've gotten to watch a lot of these guys throughout the course of the year. I've seen, obviously, Jakari, Damari, Cam Moore. I've seen them quite a number of times over the years, considering that Seminole runs through and plays a lot of the teams in Volusia and Flagler counties where I cover. Grant Stevens, I got to see twice this year when he was healthy. I mean, the one thing that strikes me is these guys are, I'm always leery about camp stars, just guys that look great, on a Tuesday afternoon, or guys that look great on a weekend camp circuit but don't have necessarily the on-field production. These guys that they've brought in are all productive. They're all really, really good players. And you see it on Friday nights. There's not a guy in this class that I can say, no, I haven't seen him make any big plays. All of them have made tremendous impacts for their team. And a lot of teams that these guys are coming from are winners. I mean, Nakai Martinez, who is playing for a state
Right.
championship in a couple of days for Apopka. Chaminade brings it home. Berkeley Prep play. They have two guys coming from now. They were in the final. Seminole made another deep run. They were champs last year.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just a lot of quality players from exceptional teams.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing that stands out to me, and just how well they've done within 2 hours either side of home. 2 hours to the west, 2 hours to the north. They've been able to go out there and get the top players that on their board, and they were able to stand up and puff their chest and compete with bigger programs. I mean, even today, there was genuine intrigue whether a 4-star kid from Pike Road, Alabama, and Curtis Perry was actually going to leave behind Alabama and Auburn to come play for Gus Malzahn at UCF. Like, there was genuine wonder as to whether that would happen, and it didn't. Alabama gets their guy, but that's just the way it is. But they're able to go out there and feel good that they can go out there and compete and recruit against top level teams and in-state teams. I mean, Miami was in on a lot of these guys. I mean, Florida was in on Leighton Nelson, who didn't sign today, but is still committed to the class. And there's a lot to like if you're UCF, and it starts with the fact you've secured a lot of areas that haven't been particularly pipelines for you in the past that could still become ones in the future. And you've been able to say, look, we can offer Power 5 football. We can, you don't have to leave the state to go find it anymore. And you don't have to all go to Florida, Miami, and Florida State to do it. Like, UCF can offer something new and something fresh and something that is appealing to kids.
Yeah. I think when I look at UCF, I feel like they got a coach that everybody, it was a different hire in that it wasn't the next guy. It was a guy who you kind of look at, oh, he's the guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they weren't hiring a guy who was on the rise. It wasn't a Scott Frost situation or whatever. This is a guy who comes in and he's played for a national championship, and he's led those kind of teams, and he played played Alabama tough many, many times, and was probably excited not to have to play them anymore. But they brought in a legit coach who started just recruiting he has made it feel like it's not a big 3, it's a big 4, now and I think we've already seen a shift in that, right? They're the only ones out of certainly, Miami and Florida State that have a banner in the last couple of years. But
we were talking, we thought Townsend, and this is no disrespect to Iowa State. We thought Townsend was like legitimately could play just about anywhere. And yes, for them to get him was just the cherry on top. Like,
but you can say that with a lot of guys, though. Quan Lee, yeah. I think Quan Lee's a guy that could play a lot of places and come in and impact it. And we're hopefully going to get Mario Tolan here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, but he's on schedule to join us.
Quan Lee could play. The kid out of Buchholz could play. I bet you the list is a lot smaller of the places that he couldn't play than the places that he can play, right? And I are both big fans of the Henderson twins and what they bring to the table. And their final 3 were Miami, Florida, and UCF. So the fact that they chose to stay home, and that's another thing, right? They did a great job in Central Florida. They have the defensive end from Lakeland, Thompson. They got him. I feel like they had a really, really good day. Let me ask you this. Let's shift gears real quick as we wait. How do you think Florida did today? We had Florida State's beat writer on. We're going to hear a little bit more about Miami in a little bit. How do you think Florida did?
I think they did really well, particularly at the safety spot. I mean, Devin Moore, they win the battle. I don't think anyone really saw them coming away with Kamari Wilson. And, just before we went on, they get Shamar James in from Alabama. So I think
he did spend like 4 minutes in Florida.
Yeah, he was here. He was in the Panhandle for a moment or two.
Yeah.
I think that all things considered, I think they did very well. I mean, again, you're starting kind of fresh. You're having to sell, what this is going to be, what this project's going to look like, and everything from there. And all things considered, I think they did very well today. And to be able to come away with the jump, 20, 30 spots in the poll with just a handful of players. I mean, kind of tells you what the quality of athlete they were able to attract.
Yeah, it's funny for me. I've been covering Kamari since he first stepped onto a high school campus, in Fort Pierce Westwood, and he was one of those guys that, and you've been in this situation too, I'm sure several times, where you hear about this freshman, that's like you've got to come see this kid, or when you're getting invitations to come watch 6 a.m. workouts, which by the way I would never take a coach up on, but when you're getting invited to 6 a.m. workouts just to look at a kid's physique, that there's something real special there. And he was relentless in his desire to get better. There's a guy here, Roscoe Barber, who works with a lot of guys, and he was, he was kind of like when he first got here, it was like Jamian Sherwood Jr. for me. Jamian Sherwood was right down the street, great safety out of Jensen Beach, and then he went to Auburn, and now he's playing linebacker for the Jets, and started a little bit this year as a rookie. And Kamari was kind of like that next guy. The first time I saw him in a practice, he was on the right hash, and they snapped the ball, and he intercepted it on the left sideline. And it was it was the first play that I saw him make, and I was just, okay, got it. Like that, I've seen enough. And you don't have a lot of guys like that. There are some guys, like you're saying, those kind of workout warrior types that it's like you see them and you're waiting for a play, you're waiting for a moment, you're waiting for a highlight. And I've said this before, guys who are that guy, every time they do something, it sounds different. When they hit, it sounds different. When they're hitting bags, it makes a different pop than it does with every. You don't even have to watch. When if there's a stud in there and they're hitting bags, you don't have to watch to know which one he is, because the sound is just different. And to watch him do stuff like that I hadn't seen anybody else do, he was, other than Jamian Sherwood, at least on the Treasure Coast, he was one of those guys. By the way, Florida was his first offer. I said all that about him being a freshman because Florida was his very first offer as freshman year.
Okay. That all ties back. Okay.
He starts out as a freshman with Florida. He ends up with the Gators. I think that Corey Raymond coming over had a big part to do with that. Former LSU coach. I know he really liked him. And I think that them hiring a Treasure Coast legend in Jamar Chaney, I think that could have played into that too. Chaney used to be at Florida, was there when they offered Kamari Wilson. He was a big reason for that. So, I think that was good for Florida. I think Shamar James, a huge get, because I think a lot of people kind of penciled him into Alabama. And so
a little update on DeMario Tolan. I have been kind of communicating with him back and forth here. There's some Wi-Fi issues is what it sounds like. So we're trying to effort that as we go along. I went out there and met with DeMario today. He did his signing, really one of the only sort of drama situations. In Orlando, he had announced yesterday he was down to 4 between Auburn, LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia. And he visited most of those places. I'm pretty sure he went. He definitely had Auburn come to him, and he went there. He went to Georgia, he had Tennessee and home, and then with him, I think he'd always had LSU at the front of his mind, and then it was a matter of just meeting Brian Kelly. That was a crucial time.
Sure.
To this weekend when he went down to Baton Rouge. Something he said to me is he wasn't what he expected necessarily, but in the best possible way. Like he was able to make a good connection and have things go from there.
And of course, I do want to ask him what he thought of his Southern accent. I think that's important to ask anybody. We are really excited though about our next guest. We're going to bring him on just a minute early because he's got a busy night tonight, and we're really glad we could get him for a few minutes. The great Larry Bluestein. Larry, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks, John, Chris. Thanks so much.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. I was watching a taping just now. We taped last night the Nat Moore Trophy and how you could swear everybody that was there to secrecy, not to let it out or anything, and they didn't. It was crazy, and they just put it on tonight and Kenyatta Watson won, but Kenyatta Jackson won. I'm sorry, from Chaminade-Madonna. But it's the Dolphins do a great job with that event, and it was nice. So I was just watching the replay and waiting for you guys, and certainly what a day. I mean, I started this thing at 4:40 this morning, and I'll end up about a little after 12:30, and I go on with a friend of mine who's out in Seattle, so we talk a couple of national things every year, and this is a great year. This is because it's so complex and there's so many things going on.
All right, Larry, I want to ask you. You've been covering recruiting. What? How many years are we at now?
This is my 51st year.
I thought it started with 5, but I didn't want to put that on you if it wasn't true.
That's okay. But this is my 43rd national signing day.
Okay, in your experience, where does Travis Hunter's decision rank on the all-time chart?
That's soared by everybody. I mean, that's got to be there. That's got to be number 1. I mean, that's craziness.
Wow.
But I mean, but it was set up. You see, the whole thing, people don't realize this whole thing was set up. It was, there was no limit on this name, image, and likeness. So you knew sooner or later someone was going to put that knockout punch in there. And Michael Rappaport, I think, did. Wasn't he the one?
Dave Portnoy, I think, was
Dave
the one
Portnoy.
that was.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Was the one that was. Was being reported. I saw that the Clarion Ledger out of Mississippi said that wasn't true. That there wasn't a 7-figure deal or a reported deal between Barstool and whether we'll see how that all shakes out. I did see a report a little later.
Hey Chris, something had to get him there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like Deion's charm is wonderful, but
yeah.
Let me ask you one other one. Chris got a text today from a SWAC coach, assistant coach, who said that he's not done. There's one more big name he's trying to get. He used the word flip, but I'm just going to say get. And he insinuated or said straight up, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, he said it was Shamar Stewart, correct?
That was the name that I had been told, yes.
Larry, do you see any chance that Monsignor Pace defensive lineman Shamar Stewart ends up at Jackson State?
To be honest with you, Shamar Stewart isn't even in that young man's time zone that went there. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, because, I mean, you got the best player in the country going to a school like that. So, no, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Normally when it comes like that, I wouldn't have even every school is going to recruit a good player. Every school is going to want Shamar Stewart.
But now it sounds like it's doable.
But exactly. With the number 1 player in the nation showing up at Jackson State, like literally anything can happen now. That's why to me it was interesting when somebody's like, "No, they're not done yet. This is just the tip of the iceberg." Essentially, is kind of what it boils down to. That Deion is just getting started.
Yeah. So in essence, John, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. Or it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Would it have surprised you yesterday?
Oh, 100%.
Travis Hunter has changed.
I'm just being honest. I mean,
I know, but it's amazing that one announcement changed the whole world. For
my friend talked about this being like the old pinball style machine. Just things keep going off of one another, and it's just. I mean, this has gotten the portal is really, and I think I said this to you before. If you guys remember how Bill Snyder built his Kansas State teams through junior colleges. So he really was ahead of the game because that's what it is. It's really, you're taking junior college type kids or kids that are in the portal with experience. So you cut through that baby steps with the freshman and sophomore. They're acclimated in school. They're acclimated on the football field. Boom, you get them in there. And that's how you build the core of a football team. Then you can get your freshmen and they can come in and learn and ease their way in and not be the guy. You see, Miami Hurricanes were forced to put in so many freshmen last year in the situation that if there was Alabama, somebody like Leonard Taylor would get playing time, but he wouldn't be a marquee kid by the end of the year. And there's a pecking order, and that's what schools like Miami are building towards. And I think with Mario's class, which is just started, because I think he'll end up with 20, he said, at the end of it. And I'm sure he's not going to, just like his offense and defensive coordinators and his assistant coaches, he's methodically going through everybody and doing so much at the same time. So he must be like in his car and on 9 phones, because he's got to, he's got the money to hire a top flight OC, DC, and some coaches. And now he's going to fill out a staff. But at the same time, he wants to make sure that Johnny's still interested in, following, his Oregon stuff and come to Miami with him. And, and I keep asking the Justin Flo question, and everybody said, well, I talked to his dad and he's staying on the West Coast, but he liked Miami too before he committed to Oregon, if I remember.
How do we assess the day for Miami? I'm curious. Like, what's is this a success? Because he's got Najee Kelly. Is it the first step of the process? Like, what do we think about how Cristobal has gotten things kind of going for the Canes?
Well, to be honest with you, obviously you look at a class like this and it really doesn't peg the meter as far as, people say, oh, oohs and ahs, but that's where you'd be wrong. Because first of all, Wesley Basaint is a year or 2 away from reaching the potential that everybody figures that he's going to reach. All he needs to do is get bigger. He's just really thin now. He's getting the 230 range, and I see that over the next year and a half with a great strength conditioning coach because he's a beast. Yeah. He's really a beast. The first time I met him as a 9th grader, he was dribbling a basketball. He stopped under the basket and just jumped straight up and dunked it backwards. And I said, oh. And I didn't even know who he was. And then Coach Roland Smith blows the whistle, and he goes out to football, and I'm thinking, this kid's playing football? And I watched him. Let me tell you, don't sleep on him, because he and Najee Kelly are definitely, the crowning jewels, but not the only one, because I love Ja'Cory Brown. I love his attitude. I watched him play against Northwestern 2 years ago. He can run, he can pass. He's 6'4". He's a freak of nature. I'll tell you what, the thing that I like about him the most is the kid is committed to getting better. And when somebody asked him 2 weeks ago if he was still coming to Miami, he goes, without question, because no matter if Coach Diaz is still there or they get somebody else, they're going to be raising the bar. And I like that, because that's what I'm all about. And I like it down here, and he liked the program. Chris Graves is an underage type of kid who's going to be a freak. I watched him play last year, and I'll tell you what, kid could do everything. He never could leave the field if you didn't want him to. Those offense, defense, special teams type of kid. I think another kid, the Isaiah Horton kid, come on. I mean, he's coming out of a program in Tennessee that wins almost every year. I have a friend who's a coach over at Oakland High School, and I'll tell you, this kid's a rangy kid. He's 6'3". He has his really good speed. I'm telling you, he body controls. When he's up in the air, he's got as good body control as you will see. And that's just another feather in the cap. And the 2 best guys, I think, are Kamari Rogers. His attitude is awesome. I've talked to him several times. This kid, when he plays and he's healthy, I'm telling you, he's a lockdown kid with long arms. He's quick. He has a passion for the game. And don't sleep on Markeith Williams, because I'll tell you what, just in his last year alone, he got so much tutelage from a former Cane, Kennard Lang, who really took him under his wing, worked him hard, showed him a lot of stuff. I'm telling you guys, just in that little grouping, there's a lot to be excited about. And
I got to spend time with Markeith in the spring, and I just came away super impressed just by being around him. He's a very impressive young man.
Right. And I'll tell you another kid, the Jaden Harris kid from Atlanta. Now, I had watched him play on tape. Somebody had sent me something early last year. And the thing that I like about him, he's a dog. He's like 6 foot 170. He'll get in your face. I watched him. They pointed out the top flight receivers that he was going against, and I watched him. I'll tell you what, he has great hand control. He's tremendous anticipation. He listens when people yell. You could see him in several plays when his head turns. So he listens, like if there's people yelling, coming your way. And I'll tell you what, I've never seen a kid make a quick adjustment in midair like he does. Wow. I'm telling you, they've got some good guys, and he's going to only build on it. He's not going to just take schlocky kids. The rest of the way, he's just going to try to take a few more freshmen and then hit the portal. And he knows a lot of people in the portal. So I think this assessment, to answer you guys' question, it's a lot to be excited about early. We all know it's just an abbreviated class, but I think that just the telltale sign of the kids who hung on. See, that's what I like. You had, what, 5, 6 kids that were committed, 6 kids who were committed early and hung with Miami all the way. And to me, that shows that these guys want to be here, like the Duke Johnsons, like the Lamar Millers. They all wanted to be Canes from the beginning. And that's how you build a program.
All right, Larry, I know you got several other commitments tonight, and like you said, you got several more hours to do this. So we appreciate your time, my friend.
All right, guys.
Thanks. I'll see you tomorrow, right?
Yes, I will see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Who
all right,
you
Chris. Thank you.
Who you got?
Thank you.
All right, guys. Oh, who do I got?
Yeah.
I'll let you know tomorrow. I ain't going to let you know now. I don't want the world mad at me before I get to the stadium.
I'm going to tweet it out as soon as you tell me, just for that, man.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right. Well, there's a guy who's been doing it for 51 in Florida and just a legend. Let's get to a phenomenal young reporter who has finished up year one, day one from Palm Beach Post, Emily Smart. Emily, how we doing?
Hello. I have survived. I've made it. We've done the first signing day, so super exciting day. I got to see all the flips, so very fun.
Okay, so I do want to ask you this, and I don't want to paint it in a bad way, but you made me laugh so hard when you told me this story. Explain to me if you don't mind, explain to our viewers where you were yesterday morning and why.
Okay, so I received a text message saying that signing day would be tomorrow on Monday.
At Glade Central.
At Glade Central. Which,
on the 9th green at 9.
Yeah, which, mind you, it's at 8 o'clock in the morning, which means from civilization, you are driving over an hour. And also, I'm a girl.
Each way.
I got to get up in the morning, got to get ready, got to look presentable. So it's a long day. I had to do that long day 2 days in a row because said informant realized that he texted me the wrong day and time for.
And by the way, said informant was, I'm not going to say who, but let's just call them somebody who is an authority at the school, right?
Yeah.
So it's a fair. When you told me that, I was like, "What in the world?" That's insane.
Because in my head, I'm thinking, I'm a sports reporter. I know when signing day is. It's Wednesday. Like, this isn't going to matter until then. Nope. So I've gotten to go out to the Glade
Trust your gut.
2 days in a row. Never say I don't love you.
You weren't going for me. Wait a minute. I did ask you to go to a couple, but
that was if Glade Central viewers are watching.
All right.
That was.
Okay, so we'll get into some Glade stuff, but you were at 2 of the biggest signings of the afternoon at Dillard and at American Heritage, and we appreciate you doing that because those are both outside your normal coverage area in Palm Beach. But let's start with Devon Mortimer, who is maybe the most unexpected flip in the afternoon, was a Florida State commit. And I don't think, by the way, it was unexpected he would flip. I think it was where he flipped to. So he ends up at Louisville. Can you talk us a little bit about that and his decision?
Yeah, really, it's just like every athlete says, they fall in love with that atmosphere. And I think everybody was thinking that he was going to commit to West Virginia if he did flip, right? So he really just saw that was his best fit. He thought that he fit into the offensive scheme a lot better there, and that fit-wise, just body type, how he fit into their system, that was his best opportunity to succeed and grow into a player that could potentially hop into the league one day.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players in the class. Chris, you're working on another guy.
Yeah, we're still efforting DeMario. So
okay, so I'll keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the prize of Dillard, I know coming into the day was Nigel Kelly, and it sounded like there were fewer hats on the table than expected.
Yes. So, every player, they had 2 hats out generally, with the exception of the name is completely escaping me right now, but one certain commit, with the exception of him, there were only two hats out on the table. And when we got there, it was just a Florida hat and a Georgia hat. And lo and behold, as soon as they give him the mic, he's like, hold up. And he pulls out a Miami hat from underneath the table. And the auditorium just went insane. So it was really exciting. And I think that in that moment, that we just saw that Mario Cristobal recruiting era bloom, especially for our South Florida athletes. And I think that that's going to start the change in seeing a lot of your South Florida recruits staying in state and not going to Alabama or another SEC school.
Sure. All right. Now you go to Dillard and then you drive all the way over to Plantation and you hang out with, that was nice. Job of you turning the imaginary wheel there. I'm not sure it was the right direction, but
look at the Odell Beckham touchdown dance from his first couple of years in the league. Did the whip.
So you saw, let's start with in order. I think it was Marvin went first, right? Marvin Jones Jr.
Yes, Marvin went first.
All right. So tell me a little bit about, he ends up at Georgia, I believe. Am I remembering that correctly?
He does end up at Georgia.
Talk about just what went into his decision from what you know and kind of what was the vibe in that room like.
Well, Marvin said that he knew that he wanted to go to Georgia from his first unofficial visit back in October. And, everything really just kind of sealed itself when he went last weekend, December 10th. So he's really excited, even more so for the opportunity to potentially start early. Georgia is a really great program. They do give opportunities to their rookies. So he saw that as an opportunity to go and develop himself into somebody that could potentially leave the program in 3 years. Just very, very excited, very focused, and said that his goal by the end of freshman year is to be an SEC All-American.
He obviously is a huge Florida State legacy kid. I think a lot of people just kind of assumed, that he would end up there. I remember I was telling you this story. The first time I met his dad was at Florida State, and we were just, introducing ourselves, and he goes, "That's me," and points to the wall, like that's my name up there. Did he talk at all about how hard it was to not go to Florida State?
He did, and he said that it wasn't hard at all. He said that his dad's influence didn't matter to him a bit. So this was completely 110% his decision. He is very confident and he's very excited.
Because I noticed that Marvin Jones, the dad, did wear red, but he didn't do the jacket thing like everybody else, and his clapping was a little muted compared to everybody else at that table.
Yeah, I think he's just excited to watch his son play college football.
Sure.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
That's my take. I mean, obviously you want to see your kid go, but I mean, you have the same thing with Earl Little too. His dad was at Miami, so.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of led into my question. I mean, they had the legacy kid there as well, and goes to Bama, where they've obviously had a very good track record just recently with American Heritage taking Pat Surtain and turning him into a first-round pick. So the fit there and what was maybe the motivation that he had to follow that path?
And that really was his motivation. It's the way that Alabama cranks out defensive backs, and especially having so many kids that went to American Heritage that are transplants to that school. So, he kind of already had a feel for what he was going to be walking into and what it was going to be like. And I think that gave him a completely different level of comfort heading into the recruiting process.
All right. So you were at Glade Central this morning. You got a couple guys going to Maryland. Let's talk a little bit about them and just give us your thoughts on how you think they'll do it at Maryland.
I mean, I think that they'll do really well. Maryland's really loading up with a lot of South Florida kids right now. They're coming out and they're recruiting a lot of kids, especially in Palm Beach County.
Right.
And they just got a transfer from Gardens that was previously at Alabama beforehand. The name's escaping.
Is that Vadravius Cowan? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I think that is it. So just picked him up as well. And I think that we can expect to see some exciting things out of Maryland these next few years. They're very excited to go, but they're very excited to go together, especially being from the Glades. When you're in a small town like that, you grow up and that's all you know. And now they're going to go to this new college town and be, small fish in a big pond. And Coach Jackson actually mentioned something really great about the kids today. They have a lot of the support that typical kids from the Glades don't have. And that's going to put them on a much more positive trajectory heading into college, potentially heading into the NFL, because what we have seen with a lot of those kids that have come from the Glades and Pahokee in the past is it ends in turmoil.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So
wait, Clemson, we got to do it.
Do it.
All right, so I'm looking at their class. They are 16th nationally, which by their lofty standards is
about 15 spots too low.
Yeah, a little bit down, but I don't think you can really fault it with the changes they've had. Where Tony Elliott takes over in Virginia.
Yeah, you lost both your coordinators. And
Brent Venables is at Oklahoma now. So, what's been the range of the emotions as far as Clemson's been concerned, and have you gotten a chance to look at any of their folks, whether it's Klubnik or even some of the other players down the line?
Klubnik, he has a lot of potential. I think he's a lot like Deshaun Watson, but he's quicker.
Wow, that's high praise. Oh my gosh.
I mean,
we might have to find this soundbite sometime in the near future.
But by the way, if she's right, we have to find the soundbite.
Oh yeah,
wrong. You and I will have it memorized. So
if I'm right, I'm maybe take me off the record for that. I've had a long day, so maybe we're living in delusion.
We've all had a long day. Don't even.
The first rule of journalism is you say it's off the record before you say it.
Yeah, and maybe when you're not.
I'm still learning. I'm new to this. Okay, so
you're at the Palm Beach Post. You should know enough.
Hopefully. So yeah, I mean, I'm as heartbroken as I am to see Coach Venables go. I'm so excited for him, and I know that I can speak for the entire Clemson family when we say that we are very excited to see what he does out there. But I thought that one thing that was interesting was his son is still staying at Clemson. They wanted to finish out there. And I think that says a lot for how much those kids that are still there do believe in the program.
Sure.
But at the same time, you do have kids like Azu, who was previously at Clearwater, like we talked about earlier in the week. And, he did have a good standout freshman season, but now he's transferring out with all of these coaching transitions. And we've seen all of those IMG recruits drop off as well. So I think that this is going to be a time where we see Dabo trust himself as he has in the past. And I think that we're going to see that it works once again. But, South Carolina, we're promoters of tradition. We're very stuck in our ways. And it's
only South Carolina. Everybody else is ready to move on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Emily, fantastic job today. You were all over places, including places that you are not usually employed to cover.
Sleep, kid. Do it.
So we appreciate you. And everything, every word that you said was on the record, just to be clear.
If you say so.
100%.
Put that on the record.
It's all right. It's recorded. So thanks, Emily. Appreciate it. See you at State.
Oh, yeah. Wait, where am I going again? I don't know.
It's not. You got to talk to your editor. I just know you're supposed to be there at some point.
I'll be in Fort Lauderdale, you guys. Stay tuned. I'll let you know. Follow me on Twitter.
Emily Smart. All right. We are so excited about our next guest. And I can say this. So excited to have him on that we literally built the entire show around this time slot. So from Coastal Carolina, Coach Jamie Chadwell. Coach, how we doing? Can you hear me? Oh, no. Can he not hear us?
I see him there.
Coach, we can see you, but can you hear us? Oh, no. I don't know sign language. Do you? Coach, you can't hear us?
I can't hear nobody.
Oh, we can hear you just a little bit.
We're starting to. Oh, he can't hear us.
All right, hold on. I'm going to mute him and unmute him and see if that helps. Coach, did that do anything for you? no. Still can't hear us? This is not exactly the video that we were hoping to get.
Can you hear us?
Coach, you got anything? I don't think he can hear us at all.
Hang on, let's try to see it, make it happen again. Hang on.
Yeah, Coach, we're gonna take you out and bring you back in if you can hear us at all. That has happened before. Not really sure why. Let's see. Coach, anything? Did that work? Can you hear us? Oh,
yeah, there's some technical difficulties here. Let me see if we can let them know.
You contact the I feel like I should hold up a sign.
Hello.
All right. We're gonna remove Coach Chadwell for a sec, I think. Coach, can you hear us? Still not working. All right. Are you communicating?
I'll tell them to sign back in. Hang on 1 second.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we can get Coach Chadwell. But Coastal Carolina is a program that so excited about the players that they have. We're going to try this one more time right here. Coach, can you hear us? He cannot hear us. All right. Well, we are going to try to work on the technical side of that, but just to give you a little bit of a rundown, Coastal Carolina, I think, signed just an outstanding class. Sorry, we are going to work on trying to get Coach Chadwell back with us.
Unfortunately, this is the downside of shooting this live and trying to, get everything done in a timely fashion. And I have sent a message to their SID to try again to see if you can log out, log back in. I think that worked for somebody earlier in the year.
It did. All right, I'm going to try this one more time because he's still hanging around. Coach, can you hear us? Coach. No, it's not working. All right, but I just want to go through some of their Florida signees, and we'll hopefully get Coach back on in a minute. Matthew Mcdoom out of West Orange, Ryan Black out of Rockledge, who's a player I really like, Trey Brown out of Cardinal Gibbons, who I think is a guy who will just do great things there. Elijah Hopkins out of Vanguard, Josiah Robinson, who I think is just outstanding out of Apopka, and from your neck of the woods, from Nice, the punter, All-American punter, Evan Crenshaw. Right. While we wait for Coach Chadwell to come back, just what are your thoughts on the Florida signees that they had, and Jerron Cameron as well from Aquinas? Just what do you think about this group?
Yeah, it's a good group. I mean, they've done a really nice job, and that goes beyond this year. They had a number of guys from the past couple seasons as well. They've really done a nice job building a pipeline, and the Sun Belt looks like a really good league for the future as far as the trajectory of the league as a Group of Five school, the Group of Five conference. It really does look like one of the new wave powers.
Here's some audio. Coach, can you hear us? Oh no,
we can hear
him. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Are you kidding me? Is this still not working? Coach, we can hear some background noise. I don't know if you can hear us at all. Doesn't look like it.
This is really upsetting.
Coach, you got anything for us? No. All right. Well, I'm not sure what the deal is there, but I think Coastal Carolina is a program that got a bunch of guys who are for whatever reason, went under-recruited. You look at a guy like Josiah Robinson from Apopka, who's one of my favorite guys in this class. All right, hold on. We now have a second one. Coach, can you hear us? Coach?
Can y'all hear me? I can't hear you.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Vaguely.
Okay. Well, that's better than we had before. Coach, appreciate you jumping on. Appreciate your patience with us. I don't know what the technical issues are, but Congratulations, signed 7 players out of Florida. Just your thoughts on this class that you put together this year.
Well, you know what? We're going to try something different. Hang on, watch this. I'm gonna type the questions into the private chat because he found it. He said, "Yeah,
Okay.
I've got nothing on your end, and maybe I can get him to see that the questions are there. We can still answer it."
Very interesting. All right, let's see if we can do this that way.
This is a first for the podcast.
All right. Nope, I think we lost him. That wasn't me.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well,
best laid plans.
Yeah, we've been working on that one for a while. So, anyways, just a really good class, though. Again, like I said, I really like Josiah Robinson. I feel like if he was 2 inches taller, he would be a Power 5 guy every day of the week. Trey Brown is a guy who I still think is a Power 5 guy at Cardinal Gibbons. He's a guy that I think you'll see in the state championship game tomorrow. I think he'll have a strong game against Coco. Ryan Black out of Rockledge is another guy. I feel like, he had some Power 5 offers. So, I just think, and Matthew Mcdoom, is a guy, an athlete out of West Orange who really rose up the board. So you and I really like their class in the summer. And all those guys, except for Evan Crenshaw, announced before August 1st. So not only did they identify a nice class early on, they were able to hold on to that class, which I think was
there was very little fluctuation from that group. Exactly.
Right. So I think what Coach Chadwell's done there, regardless of this class, is incredibly impressive. But to bring in a class,
if they can try from another device, we'll see how that works out. I mean, this is obviously the technical difficulties there are always going to be a challenge.
I see there are people who are peeking on, so I'm just going to even see if this is working.
I am trying to see if I can turn on the
You guys have us at all?
It's not going to because it's so loud.
Nope, they're still working on it. All right.
Well, we got a call coming in 1 second here.
So we do apologize. We've been working on this one for a while. But we are going to try to get Coach Chadwell, and we will try to figure this out. But again, really nice signing day for Coastal Carolina. And I feel like a lot of Group of 5 schools had a good day today. But I feel like Coastal really kind of knocked it out of the park, and I've felt that way for several months now. And I apologize because I know this is not the most riveting show, but or at least time right now. But we are trying to figure this out with Coach Chadwell and Chris. I don't know if you can read lips, but Chris is trying to figure it out with somebody. So, yeah. But we will continue, though, to talk about Coastal Carolina. Just, again, their class out of St. Thomas Aquinas, cornerback Gerard Cameron, athlete Matthew Mcdoom out of West Orange, Ryan Black, wide receiver from Rockledge, Trey Brown, linebacker from Cardinal Gibbons, Vanguard athlete Elijah Hopkins, linebacker Josiah Robinson, and punter Evan Crenshaw. And by the way, it's not often that you see a punter get a full ride, which I think speaks a lot about both, how Coastal Carolina identifies specialists, which I think is important. And also it speaks to Evan Crenshaw's ability. Chris, you've seen Evan multiple times. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, he's really good at directional kicking. I remember the game against Ponte Vedra they played, and he just kind of pinned guys in. Like they consistently won the field position battle, and that ended up helping them win the game. I mean, they won 14-7 that night. So it was, that's a very important skill to be able to control where that ball is going to get down and to be able to do so, and more so inside the 5 now than inside the 10 or inside the 20.
And then, you and I believe you did see a Popka this year, correct? Late in the year?
Yes, I did.
What were your thoughts on Josiah Robinson from that game?
Just gets after it. I mean, he's one of those guys that'll come downhill and say hello whenever given the opportunity. So
violently.
I mean, that whole defense is just so tough at all 3 levels, and I think that there's a reason they're going to be playing for a title, and I mean, there's a reason that they're consistently one of the best teams in the state. So they're really well coached, really well drilled, and and they've always got exceptional caliber athletes.
All right,
there.
we're going to try this one more time. Let's see if this works.
Please, God, make it work.
Coach, can you hear us?
He can hear you.
You can hear us?
I can't hear him. It's hard to hear him, but their microphone's working now. Yeah, but I can't hear him.
We've got something.
We've got something, but I don't know if they're comfortable doing it or not. I would say give us a thumbs up, but there's no picture.
Can y'all? How loud can y'all talk?
I'll yell if I have to.
You're barely audible.
Hello.
Like it's so low, I can't hear it.
All right, let me see.
I feel like I'm
can
screaming at y'all.
No, you're talking right at normal volume. Is that any better?
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything you're saying.
Okay.
I'm gonna get with Kevin. Let me see if we can maybe call him.
All right.
Okay. We'll figure something out here.
Okay, let's go to our next guest though.
I gotta give him credit that they've been trying and they've been
I'm
efforting
really
this.
impressed.
I don't know what
after the first
difficulty
time
is.
they would just bolt. All right.
Yeah.
Coach, are you there? Coach Minter, are you there? Hello. I don't feel like this is working the way it's supposed to right now. Coach Mike, can you hear us? Okay. Well, this is not working out the way we'd hoped, but
What an
it's
uneventful
planning
end
day.
of the show.
Things don't always go as planned. What's that?
I said, what an uneventful end of the show this might be.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming down this way. We're going to try Coach Minter one more time. We're hoping to get Mike Minter from Campbell on. Let's try this one more time. Coach, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
You can hear us?
Oh, awesome. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing tonight?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, man.
I'm not sure what the technical
Are you
difficulty
guys
is.
able to hear me?
Yes,
we
we're
can
able to hear
Coach.
you. Can you hear us? This has turned into a Verizon commercial, and I really, really hate it.
Okay. Coach, we're gonna remove you just for a second. We try to figure this out. You know what, though? It might be, I don't know if this is a time issue. Okay. You know what, Chris? I think we should just kind of cut our losses at this point. What do you think?
What can you yeah, I mean, honestly, we could just cut it. We could just cut it. Why don't we try to do something, a separate video? I'm willing to try it. Splice it together.
So did not end the way we'd hoped it would, but for those of you who stuck around, we do appreciate it. And we will be back shortly. Thanks.